You're looking at Houston, where the next Democratic presidential debate will take place 1 week from today. The 10 candidates who made the cut include 9 politicians and Andrew Yang, the 44-year-old entrepreneur who made millions running a test prep company, had 0 political experience, but his campaign took off with his proposal to give every American adult $12,000 a year. His early success has surprised almost everyone except Yang himself. In a CBS This Morning broadcast exclusive for our Road to 2020 series, we met up with Yang at his rather Spartan campaign headquarters here in New York City. This is national headquarters?
Yes. Yes, this is it. Where the magic happens.
This feels like a pretty modest space from which to launch a national campaign.
It was more modest than this before. This is actually like...
Now it feels plush?
Yeah. This is with furniture and stuff. Yeah.
On the walls, headlines chart the course of the campaign.
When we started in early 2018, I was a longer than long shot.
But Andrew Yang thrives on being underestimated. You actually thought you could get somewhere with this?
Well, I was apparently correct.
In the first 2 debates, you were given the least amount of actual speaking time.
The opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
Do you expect that to change this time?
I do. But after the last debate, we raised over $1 million in the 48 hours afterwards. And so now I've developed a reputation for making the most of whatever time I get.
See you on the debate stage!
His more than 200,000 unique donors have given an average of $25 apiece. Many attracted to his blunt assessment of America's future. How do you feel about the American dream? The idea of it?
I love it. I've lived it. My family immigrated to this country.
Do you still believe in it?
Well, I'm a numbers guy, and so the numbers say that you have a 50-50 chance of doing better than your parents if you're born in the 90s. And that chance was 93% if you were born in the 40s or 50s. So the American dream is dying by the numbers, and Americans know it.
Yang's dark outlook is similar to President Trump's, but he blames the rise of AI and automation.
We automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And if those states aren't familiar, those are all the swing states that Donald Trump needed to win and did win. So to me, this was a straight automation story that immigrants are being scapegoated for economic problems they have little to nothing to do with.
It's not immigration, it's automation.
It's not immigration, it's automation.
And it will lead to widespread despair. He writes in his book, The War on Normal People, creating a hyper-stratified society like something out of the Hunger Games. Some advisors have suggested to you you should be more optimistic in the way you paint the future of the country.
Yeah, I have gotten that advice. That's true. And I think most politicians have been sold on the fact the American people don't want to hear hard truths, and I think that's wrong.
They want to hear it straight, you think?
Yeah, they want solutions, not happy sound bites at this point.
Yang's solution, the cornerstone of his campaign, is the Freedom Dividend. He'd pay every adult $1,000 a month, no strings attached, and fund it in part with a 10% value-added tax on business production. The Tax Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, has run the numbers and says basically they don't think your math adds up, that you couldn't pay for a benefit that significant with the funds that you're talking about raising here.
They're correct that it's not that the revenue pays for it dollar for dollar, but what they overlook is that if you put this money into Americans' hands, the money doesn't disappear. Where does it go? It goes back into our consumer economy and circulates over and over again.
The argument is it would discourage people from working. Would it make more sense to guarantee people jobs like Bernie Sanders is promising?
The first thing is that there's no data that shows that us getting $1,000 a month would reduce work levels overall. In terms of Bernie's federal jobs guarantee, I understand the spirit of it, but in practice it would be very, very difficult to implement and manage. Imagining that all Americans want to work for the federal government is something that Bernie might think is in our minds, but that's not the case when I talk to most Americans.
Yang says he doubled his campaign staff of about 30 last month and will soon double it again. If for some reason you were not to get the nomination, would you consider it?
For some reason, sorry.
You're laughing.
I know, I like the cordiality.
Would you consider a third-party candidacy?
My job is to help get Donald Trump out of office, and I would do nothing that would increase the odds of him sticking around. And I think a third-party candidacy would do just that.
Yang's candidacy, of course, is still a long shot. He's polling between 2% and 4% nationwide and lower, actually, in the early states.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of work to do. But he's put some ideas on the table that most politicians have not wanted to talk about.
Very bold.
Very bold.
Yeah.
And he's betting that Americans feel that things are not getting better and want to hear about that.
It's also interesting to see if some of those ideas spark other ideas within other candidates as we move forward as well.
I mean, but he wants the idea of a unique, of a universal income to actually become policy. He said he doesn't want it just to be talked about. He wants it to happen.
Never heard anything like that, but
That's right.
we shall see.